Welcome to the 46th annual session of the Hague International Model United Nations.
Mr. President, Madame Secrétaire Générale, esteemed guests, members of the Corps Diplomatique, fellow MUN directors, honorable delegates, welcome again on behalf of my co-chair Frank Martin and myself and the THIMUN Foundation as a whole to the 46th The Hague International Model United Nations. I should like to begin by thanking different persons. First, you, the participants. According to our database, you are 2,900 admin staff, delegates, press members, and student officers. You represent 190 schools and 98 nationalities. It is you, in your rich diversity, who make THIMUN an international conference in the true sense of the word. Secondly, I would like to thank you 369 MUN directors, they are teachers, heads of school, who not only brought you all here, but also prepared you for this conference. Without them, there would not be a conference this week. Thirdly, I would like to thank all the members of the Corps Diplomatique present in the General Assembly. I know, we know, that your time is precious, and we greatly appreciate the effort you have made to come here. Thank you. Very soon, you will have the opportunity to meet and discuss with your fellow MUN ambassadors during the flag parade. Fourthly, I would like to thank three persons present as well in this General Assembly. They work at the Dutch Foreign Office. I'm talking about Ambassador Piet de Klerk, Project Director Hans Moritz Schrapfeld, and last but not least, the person with whom we had most contact with, Policy Coordinator Cecilia Weijers. Why do I have to thank them? Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me explain. On the 24th and 25th of March 2014, the Netherlands will host, after Washington and Seoul, the third Nuclear Security Summit. 58 leaders of governments and international organizations will come to The Hague to discuss measures to improve global nuclear security. With the help, the support, and the expertise of the three aforementioned people, THIMUN was able to organize a simulation of this upcoming summit. Parallel to the other MUN forums, 24 students will discuss nuclear terrorism, enrichment of uranium, and cooperation between governments and industry concerning civil and military nuclear. THIMUN has always tried to be as close as possible, not only to the United Nations, of course, but also to international conferences. And I can happily say that thanks to the Dutch Foreign Office, we have succeeded in our aim, and I hope we'll continue this collaboration in the future. Dank jullie wel. Next, I would like to introduce, thank you, Mr. Genesis. Next, I would like to introduce briefly our keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker is Professor Ton Dietz, Director of the African Study Center, but he's as well the Professor of the Study of African Development at Leiden University in the north of The Hague. Professor Dietz will talk about the theme of our conference, Africa, Transformation, and the Challenges Ahead. For your information, the decisions to focus an entire conference on transformations and challenges on Africa was no innocent choice. Why? The THIMUN Foundation had the idea to study the theme according to our different conferences. Here, January 2014, Africa in The Hague. November 2014, Asia in Singapore. February 2015, Middle East in Doha. And for the first time in August 2014, Latin America in Montevideo. It will be our fourth THIMUN conference in the world. As I said, Africa was not an innocent choice. In June 2013, in Japan, a conference on Africa was held, entitled TICAD, Tokyo International Conference on African Development. Our special conference called TICAD, The Hague International Conference on African Development, would like to emulate the Tokyo Conference. As you can understand, TICAD is a perfect example of what is happening today with regards to Africa. The challenges that face Africa do not concern only the African countries, but the entire world. It is with the same spirit that the THIMUN Foundation would like you, dear delegates, to take action during these coming 5 days and help Africa to face, not alone, the challenges that still need to be resolved. I will not go deeper on this topic. We have Professor Dietz. Thank you again for your contribution to our conference. Last but not least, I would like to introduce you to our cinema evening. Tomorrow at 7:30, the THIMUN Foundation will house the screening of a documentary that has received various awards. I would like to invite everyone here back to this room tomorrow to watch Sweet Dreams, where you will have the chance to meet film director and Academy Award-winning editor, Miss Lisa Fruchtmann. After the screening, you will be able to ask any questions to Miss Fruchtmann on the documentary she directed with her brother Rob. Sweet Dreams is set up in Rwanda and follows a group of women after the genocide. These women want to create a new future for themselves. They start a women's drumming troupe. Then they open an ice cream shop. As you can understand, Sweet Dreams shows not only the development of the civil society, but also the empowerment of women and the growth of small and medium-sized enterprises in Rwanda. This documentary is an excellent example of the new image of Africa. This new image has finally filtered through the media. A decade ago, the magazine, The Economist, had a publication called Africa, the Hopeless Continent. The accompanying article painted a picture of a continent ravaged by war, famine, and disease. In 2012, in their publications, both Time magazine and The Economist used the expression Africa rising. As you can see, we have gone from Afro-pessimism to Afro-optimism. This is also something, dear delegates, that we would like you to reflect upon during this conference. Voila. I hope I have been clear enough. You are now all aware of who our keynote speaker is, what the theme of our conference is, and what will happen tomorrow. Again, I wish you an excellent 46th THIMUN conference, and I yield the floor back to the President of the General Assembly.
Thank you. I now ask that the House rise for 1 minute of silence to remember those that have died through man-made or natural disasters. Please rise. Again, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you to this 46th annual session of THIMUN. I would like to extend a special welcome to our guest, Ms. Grace Asirbatum, who is, as I said, the Deputy Director General of this year's Nobel Peace Prize winning organization, the Organization for the prohibition of chemical weapons. Ms. Asirvato, you have the floor.
Thank you. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome you all to THIMUN 2014. As you all know, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, works to implement the global ban on chemical weapons, better known as the Chemical Weapons Convention. Some of my colleagues will be briefing you in more detail about our work, including the hands-on demonstration of our inspection equipment. But let me make a few points here. The Chemical Weapons Convention has been a uniquely successful treaty in the history of multilateral disarmament. Not only does it ban outright an entire class of weapons of mass destruction, it controls this ban through international verification. In other words, the 190 member states of the convention must prove they are not hiding any scheduled chemicals or making any chemical weapons by making appropriate declarations and also opening their chemical production facilities to a rigorous inspection regime. In doing so, by mutual consent, with full transparency, they have built an extraordinary level of trust and confidence amongst themselves and also with the OPCW for conduct of business. The fact that the convention enjoys near universal adherence shows just how important protection against these weapons is to the community of nations. For the horrific impact of chemical weapons has been only too evident over the course of the past century. They have suffocated, incapacitated, and disfigured countless victims, many innocent civilians with brutal regularity, from the battlefields of Flanders to the suburbs of Damascus most recently. The international community has been steadfast in its support for the OPCW's mission in forever consigning these heinous weapons to history. As a result, we have been able to record remarkable achievements since the convention entered into force in 1997. In little more than 16 years, the OPCW has verified the destruction of more than 82% of the world's declared chemical weapons, which is more than 58,000 metric tons of chemical weapons. And we are well on our way to dispatching all these remaining stocks. We have also developed extensive measures to guard against their re-emergence and their proliferation in the future. Beyond disarmament and non-proliferation, we are also promoting cooperation on peaceful uses of chemistry. In short, the OPCW is working not only to prevent chemistry from being misused to harm humankind, but also to ensure that chemistry benefits humankind to the greatest extent possible. Recent months have witnessed, as you all know, we have been truly going through historic developments, and it was specifically for the OPCW. The mission currently underway in Syria presents a unique opportunity to rid the world of a major chemical weapons arsenal. Its successful completion will bring us within ever closer reach of making the vision of creating a world free of chemical weapons a reality. At the same time, the award of 2013 Nobel Peace Prize to the OPCW has served to significantly increase the visibility of the OPCW and the cause of chemical disarmament. This has not only enhanced our energy and enthusiasm for the task at hand, it has also inspired our hope that the OPCW's record of success might add impetus to disarmament efforts further afield. While Syria is rightly focusing our efforts at present, the OPCW has not lost sight of the wider strategic context of our work and the new challenges ahead. These include persuading those 6 countries still outside the Chemical Weapons Convention, namely Angola, Egypt, Israel, Myanmar, North Korea, and South Sudan, to join the convention without further delay and conditions. No country can make a valid reason or valid case for not joining a treaty that protects its citizens against chemical weapons and delivers clear benefits to the economy, especially in the face of international reaction to the barbarous use of chemical weapons in Syria. At the same time, we need to be responsive to a rapidly changing strategic environment. Growing economic interdependence and significant advances in technology and communications are posing new challenges for how we protect sensitive materials and technologies against misuse without curtailing access to their beneficial applications. The OPCW is an independent international organization, but we enjoy a very close working relationship with the UN. This stands to reason, as our activities make an important contribution to the UN's responsibility for maintaining peace and security in accordance with UN charters and the relevant resolutions. This includes placing our resources at the disposal of the UN Secretary General for investigating alleged use of chemical weapons involving non-state parties to the Chemical Weapons Convention. This was recently the case in Syria. Among its findings, the UN investigation, to which the OPCW provided crucial expertise, that confirmed the use of sarin in the Damascus suburb of Ghouta last August. Following Syria's move to accede to the convention, the OPCW combined forces with UN and established the joint mission to oversee the removal and destruction of chemical weapons, Syrian chemical weapons. This mission has further thrust our cooperation into international limelight. Clearly, the history of chemical weapons and chemical disarmament presents several interesting lessons for multilateral diplomats of present and future. But one on which I would invite you to specially consider is technical expertise, how technical expertise and knowledge can be married with policy-making skills to come up with multilateral solutions that yield practical results. Your generation of diplomats will need to make special efforts to engage an ever broader set of stakeholders in international peace and security. This will require you to have not only excellent communication skills, but also a well-anchored worldview and broad strategic perspectives. You will need to find a common language and common objectives with scientists and industrial representatives, no less than with government officials and policymakers. You will also need patience, for multilateral negotiations are hard work. They rarely have momentous breakthroughs, and they often get bogged down in detail. But because they must accommodate the interests of all participating states, their outcomes are enduring. When we engage in such negotiations, we should also look to temper our ambition with realism, but a realism that never loses sight of shared ideals. Such ideals are only too obvious in the field of peace and security. The Chemical Weapons Convention is a living proof to this. With these remarks, allow me to wish you all good luck in your endeavors as you familiarize yourself with the ins and outs of multilateral diplomacy at this excellent hall. I thank you for your attention.